Hello, hello, everyone. I am Teany Hidalgo, and this is,
Debbie Bellenger.
and we are so excited to be here. Thank you guys for joining, those of you who are live, and for those of you who are watching the replay. I can't wait for you to get all the juiciness out of this material that we're going to talk about today and ask your questions, tell us your stories, comment below, all the things. Today, we're going to talk about us, actually. We're going to talk about who we are, why we got into this field of burnout, our stories, and if you all want to share stories of your own, we'd love to hear it and support you through your journey as well. Debbie, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that's great. Let's just share the juiciness.
Yeah. All right. Good. So why don't you get started?
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into it. Tell me, Debbie, how did you get into this journey of wellness and consulting and all the things that you do, and what was the catalyst?
Yeah. So, it's been a long, blessed journey. I will say that. I grew up in a very active family in Canada. So, like many listeners, I'm sure I was outdoors a lot, playing, jumping, climbing. Mom and dad were both varsity athletes. And so I grew up with a love of movement. And it was really easy to decide after high school what I wanted to study. I just knew I was going to be in some kind of movement. So physical education teacher was the thing in those days, one of the choices. And I was very lucky to be able to get into a school in Canada that did a concurrent education program that was a Bachelor of Physical Education and a Bachelor of Arts. And so
nice.
and it was designed to create physical education teachers, but in Canada at the time, if you taught physical education in a school, you had to have another subject that you could teach, right? And I just did health because I wanted to learn about pharmacy and nutrition and all things health. And so that was a really lovely thing. But I also figured out along the 4-year journey, I did not want to be a full-time elementary teacher or high school teacher. And so I carried on with the education, went into a master's program at the University of Western Ontario that had a recreation management program, recreation sport administration. And I loved it. I love education. I think I would stay in school forever if I could make money doing that. But anyway,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So that led me into a really fun career of working at the YMCA as a fitness leadership coordinator. My first boss was my first mentor, and I really, within the coordination piece, she gave me opportunity to teach and lead fitness instructor certification programs. And I just love teaching. And in the fitness piece of it, that was amazing. And so one thing led to another. Then I was director of a brand new spa gym facility in a brand new hotel in downtown Ottawa. And then I was director of Parks and Rec. So I have been able to work in the spa industry, municipal government, all the things, right? And from that role, I went into director of a brand new fitness center in Houston as the first general manager. So now I'm moving into operations with Group X and personal training, and all great fun. Loved all of it. From there, I went into a role in South Carolina, 12 years as director of wellness. So I've been the first director of wellness or something for many chapters of my career. So along the way, I have leaned heavily into innovation, creativity, building programs for different populations, and I love it. I love customizing wellness solutions for sectors of the population that maybe never thought they could move or do that hike. And I'm like, let me help you. I can help you get in shape to do that hike or to do a 5K with your son or whatever it was. I went from South Carolina to another first director of wellness role for another hospital system in North Carolina. So more medical wellness, but that chapter, I leaned more heavily into that plus community wellness and creating corporate wellness programs. So just these organic streams of let's learn how to do this now in wellness, but all of it in the wellness space, right? Wellness programming, providing opportunity for patients to have step down programming, post-surgery, cancer, bariatric surgery, that kind of thing. And I had a senior vice president role in South Florida, which was perfect for all my skills. Programming for 9 Ys to create healthy living programs, but that evaporated with COVID. And then I worked for an insurance firm, and 2021 was a decision-making year for me. And I just had got to the point it was time to be a solopreneur. So I took the leap of faith, created a consultancy arm to my business, master classes for fit pros and fitness clubs. So I'm getting to do exactly what I love, which is teach, help, and everything around health and wellness space. And so here we are. And then I met you, and now we're doing magical things together. So your turn.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Because I mean, I definitely see the pattern of health and wellness and movement, as you mentioned. What was there ever a catalyst that was like, oh, dang, I need to switch and do this. I need to incorporate this because this matters to me, or I've seen this happen and I need to support this area. Was there anything ever like that for you?
Yes, that was my North Carolina chapter. The county that I was working in outside of Charlotte was a trade-based county. Most of the jobs were blue collar, very low income, tobacco grown in the area, lots of smokers, a very poor health index overall for the county. And I felt like at that point, it was my calling, my mission to support the residents of the county with all the things that seem to be working against them. Growing up smoking, eating fried food, no exercise, drinking Mountain Dew, because that's where it was created. Wow. Yeah. And so I think that was my moment where I'm going to spend more energy on the less fit, the less inclined, and put energy in creating programming for patients that were referred by our docs and the community at large as well, who just didn't ever think they could be healthy, make better choices, live to see their grandchildren, play with their all of that became my heart. That was a huge shift for me. I want to spend my time with the deconditioned, overweight, out of shape, post-surgery, providing hope for a better life through getting healthier, however you would get there, right? That's a great question.
Whatever level they want. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. I always feel like there's something that, you want to give your heart to, right? And it's not just necessarily for the money. It's not for the position. It's something that really kind of pulls your heartstrings, right?
Yep. Yeah, that was my chapter. And I've stayed very true to that, learning how to meet anyone on their well-being journey exactly where they are. I don't sprinkle any Teany, you should be doing, there's no shoulds. It's not what we do, right? So I love that part of what I do. It makes me happy. Mm-hmm.
I think that you and I resonate on that, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Cool. So my journey is a little different from yours. I actually had a completely different career, not related to what we're doing right now. But I always find that whatever journey you have, it always becomes a catalyst. I love using that word because I always feel like things kind of push you to be better, to do something bigger, and to really connect to who you are. And I started as an engineer. I went to school for engineering. I went to Columbia for engineering. So what's up to all my Columbia friends out there? I didn't actually end up doing engineering, which happens a lot, believe it or not. You can go to a 4-year school and dive and put your heart and soul into it and realize you don't want to do it, right? And that's what I realized. I didn't want to be sitting in front of a computer programming my life away. And so I switched into something a little bit more artistic, which is funny because you said you had a dual degree in the arts, I think you said.
Yes, I
So I
do.
did computer science and arts because I was such an artist growing up. I actually thought I was going to do like special effects for movies and all these things. Obviously, that didn't happen. But just because you don't end up doing arts doesn't mean you don't end up channeling your creativity into something else, which actually is exactly what happened. So I did end up working in the field of like design and design and development and things like that, and working in corporate for like, 22 years now. But I think it was in 2007, we were just talking about this the other day, you and I, that there's always something that kind of like pushes you. And in 2007 and 8 was when I was feeling like what a lot of people are feeling right now, which is that corporate burnout. I'd been working for 7 to 8 years at that point for the same company. And honestly, I didn't feel the meaning behind what I was doing. I felt like, okay, I'm good at this. I have the skills for this. I trained for this. I went to school for this in a way, right? But it wasn't my calling. It didn't pull my heartstrings. I didn't feel like I was helping anybody. I was just really helping the company's, bottom line, right? Like they were making money and that's great, but it didn't really call me. So in 2007, 8, I just had this come to Jesus moment where it was like, what am I going to do? What is this? I'm in pain. I'm carrying a heavy laptop to work. I was emotionally, mentally, physically burnt out, right? I couldn't do it anymore. So I took a 3-month sabbatical and I had to go figure out my life. And in that moment, I went to see a chiropractor. I got massage therapy. I did all of the things that, we kind of do to fix our bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without really thinking about why and how and what caused it and things. But because I went to these amazing practitioners, I started asking questions. And that's where I think sometimes we don't use all the skills that we learned in school, but we end up using some of them. So in engineering, it's all about problem solving, asking questions, and that was me. So I'm berating like my chiropractor with questions. Like, why is this happening? What are you doing to me? How are you fixing this? How can I do this at home so that I don't have to come here 3 times a week? Like all the things. And that's what led into this big draw to learn about my body, learn why is this happening. And that was just the physical level, right? Because I didn't really attack and support the mental and emotional side yet. I just wanted to know, how do I get out of this pain? Which,
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to that now, right? Like, how do I get out of this pain? How do I fix this and come to some kind of normal, right? So where I'm not in pain all day long. And so once that happened, I just fell in love with the idea of wellness and I come from a background of, I was a gymnast. I love snowboarding. Like I was definitely a physically active person. I love to travel. So I was definitely into doing physical things and physical activities, which probably contributed to the pain also. But I didn't know how to fix it, right? Because I was just doing.
Minor details.
Minor detail. So, but then when I started learning about it, it was so fascinating. It kind of reminded me of engineering, right? How your body works, right? How do you get into a problem and how do you get out of it? How do you support your body? How do you bring in nutrition? How do you do the exercise correctly? Right, Debbie?
Yes.
So
Oh,
that you
yeah.
don't injure yourself and you're actually doing something good for your body. And all the different pieces were like mind blowing to me. And that launched me into, okay, I need to do something with this. I don't know what it's going to be, but I need to figure it out. And in that 3 months, crazy small amount of time, but I think
Yeah.
sometimes when you're looking, right, you find it because you're searching for something bigger, something that's more connected to you. And that's when I got into massage therapy. So I actually went back to work, but smarter, right? I understood my body now. I knew what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to learn about massage therapy and how the body works. And I mean, this is 2 years of education in New York and one of the best schools for massage therapy. And then I got into medical massage and learning the deeper parts of how that works. So it was just super fascinating to me. And so through that journey of learning how to do massage therapy and learning about my body, and helping others do it, that's when it was like, right? Like, I need to help people. So your moment, Debbie, about learning how to help these people and meeting them where they're at, right? And helping them with what they need to get to a better place. That was my catalyst,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is where I'm going with this. I need to use this to help people, to support people, and to do better instead of just working for corporate and making money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all good. But hey, that could help me in the meantime while I build my practice. And so in the middle of helping people, I started listening to people, right? I started hearing their problems. I started hearing how they got into the mess that they got into physically. And that reminded me of why I got into the mess I got into physically. And that turned into like a coaching lesson without learning about coaching yet.
Right.
That sparked going into coaching. I did Tony Robbins, some of his coaching. And it just sparked this whole area of learning the mental piece and the emotional piece of why we physically suffer, right? And that just became a whole package for me. And so here I am talking about stress, like going into schools, doing stuff in corporate, teaching people about burnout. And then, I start meeting people like you who are also doing it, but a little different, have, a different piece of it. And it was just so fun, right? So here we are. Let's talk about how we got into this. You want to talk a little bit about it?
How we got into it?
Yeah.
You go ahead. You start.
Okay.
Yep.
So it actually started with me. Actually, I think I ran into you in LinkedIn and I was like, oh, she's a corporate wellness consultant. That sounds kind of interesting. And for the work I do in corporate, I'm all about data. And data is super important, right? Because when you have data, when you understand users and why they do the things they do and all the things, right? That's so important because then it helps you understand how to help them, how to build systems, web pages, and processes that, can help them do what they need to do. So that's the same for what we do with burnout, right? Like I needed to understand your data, where your background was, right, Debbie? And like all the stuff that you were learning about, where are things going, how are people suffering, where are they suffering, what's going on physiologically, mentally, what's going on in corporate versus schools versus somewhere else, right? All the information. And so as you and I were kind of chit-chatting about data, I was like, oh my gosh, I think we can use this for something. We can do something with this. I think that this is such a great, like, juicy, like, data in order to like produce something amazing. So I don't know if you want to take it from there.
So I love that because with my health and wellness background and corporate wellness, specifically working with employers and gathering the trust of a CEO, CFO, HR director, hiring me and my team to go on site and provide employer wellness. And sometimes it involved a full-time coordinator. Sometimes it was, a fully developed employer wellness solution for $185,000 a year, or a 6-part lunch and learn series for $2,000. So it was all over the map. But I learned in healthcare, working as a wellness director in healthcare, I learned the value of data, Teany, and I love data like you. And I would say in the fitness industry, this is a generalization, but I had not learned that skill yet working in fitness clubs as such, early on in my career. That wasn't what drove my career. It was operations, hiring, developing staff, a great group X schedule, and all of those things. But in healthcare, it is all about the data and science, crossing T's, dotting I's, showing outcomes. And when I started to sell employer wellness programs, then I was holding myself accountable. If a company is going to pay us $2,000 to $185,000, then clearly we need to show the value of having a wellness coordinator, having all the wellness programs and the challenges and the lunch and learns and the health screens. So in my head, having worked in the healthcare sector, how do I show that if somebody invested a certain dollar amount hiring my team, I could effectively go back and say, we have saved you $185,000. So because you have a wellness program for your employees, we have reduced the healthcare spend by doing XYZ. And we know this because we're measuring ABC, right? Like you and I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Have we effectively improved blood pressures? Have we reduced the frequent flyers to emergency at $7,000 to $10,000 a visit when it was just a headache? This kind of thing, right? So I think this is why you and I are so on point. We understand one another because I, like you, learned the value of data. I've learned how to use it and support an initial conversation of why employers need wellness for their employees. It's not a nice to do, it's a necessary.
Yeah.
You have to take care of your employees who are spending a vast majority of their life under your leadership. And we want opportunity for them to be healthy, well, fully present. And we want to effectively take that conversation downstream to the business part of the conversation and say, because we did this program, we have reduced the healthcare spend, we're bending the cost curve, all those things. So I love my data and showing that the value of wellness and partnering with you, Teany, and avoiding a full-blown burnout. There's a lot of conversation there supported by stats, right? And there's a lot going on in America right now that we need to talk about this more, because if we just lean into the burnout conversation, you had a 3-month leave. The cost of burnout and or the great resignation that's going on is not sustainable.
No. And so that leads actually to the next piece, because we have a real crisis happening. It's not, and actually, you and I've talked about this. I think the crisis was happening way before the crisis happened, right? It was already happening because I was already doing purpose coaching and things that was helping people get back to themselves, right? To the real meaning in their lives. And again, my favorite word is like catalyst, because this pandemic was really a catalyst to help shine the light on the real crisis that was happening, which is the mental health and the reconnection crisis. People have been so disconnected. They've been working crazy hours. Forget about the 40-hour work week. It's like, I've seen 60, 80. And if you're a nurse, like you're working crazy hours, doctors, like all these prestigious careers. I mean, you're working nuts, crazy hours.
Yes.
And you're supposed to be handling people's health, right? But you're not really handling as much your own. So, I mean, this crisis was happening way before this was happening right now. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Teany. As we've discussed a few times, I do believe the crisis as we know it today pre-existed. The pandemic has shone a light on a pre-existing crisis. So from my lens in the healthcare sector, as the wellness expert, we were dealing with the opioid epidemic. We were dealing with the obesity epidemic. Anxiety is now a clinical diagnosis. And so this element of dissatisfaction in work and the great resignation that we're experiencing now, I truly believe this was present before. Yeah. But a lot of people, like you said, had their head down, were doing the work because we didn't necessarily know we could challenge the thought that we could be happy at work or fulfilled or have fit breaks at work or work for an employer that cared about us. That element of the way it should be. And you hit on a couple of key business sectors that, it's hard. Nursing, healthcare, banking, legal. There's many that, yes, the norm is 60, 70, 80 hours a week, but where's the health in that? So I agree with you. I think the pandemic is shining a light on pre-existing mental health issue and many other issues in the workforce that were going on. This has just allowed space and time. And I do think there'll be some positive outcomes of all of this, but we're talking about things we were talking about 3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're having more solutions, right? We're having more things that are coming out. So actually that's good. That leads to the next piece, which is sort of the myths and aspects that we see in our industry that our industries may be getting wrong, right?
Mhm.
And you and I talk about this a lot because, you're doing wellness pieces in corporate, and I work in corporate and I see it, right? And one of the things that I've seen is that they're trying to band-aid a lot of things with solutions that are temporary fixes, or, just
Yeah.
to say that they have that as their list of to-dos for the company for the year, right? Like, oh, we did this and we did that, but did it actually solve anything? Are people actually using it, right? I've seen in companies where they build like groups that are led by VPs and executives that are supposed to solve like mental health problems, but people don't necessarily join. There's no support, there's no connection, there's no, right? They're missing things, they're missing pieces that they're just not connected with the work, right? So I think one of the biggest myths is that you can just build some kind of, health program in a company and expect that people will come. I don't think that's the solution at all. And I know that you're in the space, so I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
I agree 1,000%. No, it's not build it, they will come. It's not VP led employee resource groups, because employees will not find their voice in front of their leader. You will not get an accurate read on the true root of struggle of your workforce if you put a leader in that room. Those groups, employer resource groups, employee engagement groups, whatever you call them, and this is based on my 23 years working in corporate wellness, designing the programs and selling them and owning everything around them, the good, bad, and the ugly. Employees need autonomy and a voice. And the myth that you'll build it and they'll come, or because you offered a walking program, you're improving the health of your people. I'm sorry, that's a poke the bear moment for me. You're putting a check in the box. And one thing that's so important right now, and it's always been, we are not, but we can just talk about it more now. We're not human doings. We're human beings. And so I learned early on in the corporate wellness work, when employees come to work, when Teany comes to work, whether it's at home or going to the office, wherever she is, she doesn't walk into her office space, wherever the computer is, kitchen, living room, office, wherever, and become Teany the worker bee, one-dimensional, right? Teany is bringing all of Teany. So our role in employee wellness, which lives in HR and benefit space, right? That's where wellness lives and breathes, is the respect that we are working with human beings. And holistically, I would be a better leader if I do, in effect, appreciate Teany and all that she brings as, yes, Teany is an engineer. She's at work, check. She's a mom, she's a sister, she's a best friend. She is all these things. And that's where we need to get organized in corporate wellness, employee voice, employee choice. And that's where we are now with the Great Resignation. But I've always held the philosophy, we need to get our arms around the whole of the person and let it be human. It's okay to have a bad day, but Teany needs a safe space to share with a colleague that her son is ill and she's going to be late to work, versus the other side of it, where we have work cultures where you're not comfortable, you don't feel safe, and you show up to work late. You start missing work because you're afraid your boss is going to, this kind of thing. So I like this conversation because it shines a light on in workplace wellness, and we're talking more about it now than we ever have, the human being. How do we create fun, safe work environments that the whole of the person can be present, and take that downstream where the benefit plan design supports the actual needs and stressors of our workforce today. So if before the pandemic, 1 in 67 persons worked from home, now it's 1 in 6, I believe is the latest. What are the challenges that a work from home employee needs to have addressed by the HR partner, right? So I'm super excited about this because I love innovation. I'm thinking, benefit plans, benefit designs, employee wellness programs. What I used to do is not relevant anymore. So we're in this creative space, and I'm an innovator. So I'm like, ooh, what can we do? You know, this is so exciting to create the new model. So yeah, I think
because it's multi-level, right? Because
it,
you're engaging. So I think one
yes,
of the things you said is, one of the things you said, but like understanding the employee, right? Because if you don't understand your employee, then how do you support them? So
yeah,
understanding them and learning them, and like that's also how you see how they're experiencing burnout, how they're experiencing stress, and all these things. And that's the only way you're going to learn how to build your programs correctly, right? Because then you understand, okay, actually, this team has burnout because of these reasons. So this is how we need to customize their program. This other team has burnout for these reasons, right? So now there's not one size fits all, which again is what seems to be happening. Oh, let's just give them, a 50% whatever discount at, the local gym. That
mm-mm,
doesn't work for everyone, right? It has to be a
mm.
multi-pronged solution for that team and for that team and for whatever is needed. Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe the future of our workforces, of course, with well-being and addressing burnout and the mental health crisis in America, is multifaceted, multi-layered. Again, that's the joy in the work for you and me, because we can work with an employer, create a customized solution that really does address the dynamics in the particular team that we're working with. Open, safe conversation. I mean, that's the fun of it, right? And honestly, I'm just going to say this because this is what I believe. I read last week that the American Psychological Association, APA, they do an annual workplace stress survey. They're reporting 80% of America is burned out. And I believe that. I think we're all exhausted. How can we not be, right? So if we could just get that out of the way.
We're
There's
exhausted about the exhaustion.
we,
Like
we
everybody's tired.
are tired. If we could just, it was like when I started corporate wellness, we didn't talk about smoking, big taboo on your forehead if you were a smoker. Well, how can you get smokers in your smoking cessation program if there's such a stigma attached, right? It's the same with this conversation that you and I are having, the stigma of burnout. Well, let's just acknowledge it. We're all tired. Now let's just create the love and safe space to understand it, recognize it, and create solutions to move us forward, right? And that's you, Teany. I mean, that's your expertise. And so I love this because I think we can create magic for the employers that want to tackle this with their employees, have open conversation. And in my mind, every employer, small, medium, and large, needs something right now as we move forward, because the world remains a fairly stressful place. So there's just a lot going on that we've not experienced before, right?
And I just want to add one more thing to that, because I always find that certain generations also act as catalysts. And I always find that millennials have been talked about so much lately. And as I'm seeing, and as we've hired them and they've, kind of come into our industries, and like they've been doing things, right? They've been moving things around and like busting things open.
Yes.
They are the generation, and maybe the generation after them as well, that they come in and they're not having that,
This
they're
is
coming
true.
in and they're like, I'm not staying in this company for 10, 20 years like the previous generations. No, if you're not offering me things that I want, I'm going to leave in a year or two. And that's exactly what's happening.
Yes.
This generation is coming in and they are catalyzing all the industries because they're not taking BS from companies that have been around for so many years and they have one way of operating. No, now you have to change things up. Maybe they have multiple skills. You have to keep them in, like, kind of entertained in a way. You have to keep them growing and knowing that, yeah, you're going to reach the next level in this amount of time. And there's no like, oh, there's a 20-year road to being a manager, or there's none of that is happening anymore. Now it's like, okay, what's my next piece? What's my next move? What can I learn next? They're very like active in moving things and growing, right? I don't know if you've seen that.
Well, I agree with you 1,000%, because we effectively have gone from computers to these. So the
Yeah.
generation of millennials is not patient. They expect everything right now because they're used to this. So you can do right now on your phone, right? So you're right. That has shifted a lot of the mindset around diversity, I think, in the workplace and inclusion and multi-generational work. And now we have this great resignation and we have a huge influx, which I think is super cool because I'm old, but retirees coming out of retirement to go back to support a workforce that needs that longevity and or maturity and or someone's got to train the new folks, right? And so again, I think there's going to be some very impactful positive outcomes of the pandemic as we feel our way through it, right? I agree with you. Yeah.
I think so. And I guess that's the beginning of our last piece, which I think is, offering a glimmer of hope. I know that you and I that's kind of our jam. Like we want to now start creating things for, employees, for individuals, for companies, whatever size you are, to start really understanding what you're dealing with, which again, we have the data, we have the understanding, we've been through it ourselves, to start understanding what's going on and how to support and how to create the programs, how to build the things so that they can come, right?
Yes.
And receive the support that they need. And that's the hope right now. That's creating that safe space for, individuals, for employees to be able to understand themselves, what they're experiencing, what the world is experiencing, and how to move forward and get out of it, right? How to be healthier through it, how to continue to work and feel good, not just okay, but thrive, right? All these things.
Yes. Yes, we need to get our arms around that. And I think in our work of customizing employer wellness solutions and tackling the mental health crisis, creating opportunity in a workforce for education, awareness, and training and ongoing training. It's not one conversation. This is not one conversation, right? Okay, well, you think you're burnt out. Here's the signs and symptoms. Do this, you'll be fine. It's just like wellness, which is why you and I just are like magic together, because it's also just not like, okay, Teany, I'm going to get fit today. I'm going to go walking today and now I'm fit. I'm sorry. Figure that out. We're going to be billionaires. I promise you.
There's no magic pill for that.
Yeah, stop it. We have a daily practice. We have daily skills, things that we need to lean into and understand and reframe as our challenges change, right? So I've had 7 zip codes in the last 2.5 years. Reframing a move, a challenge. I could either have drowned with that and lost my mind, or I could thrive. The good news is I'm thriving. I'm doing exactly what makes me happy. And I took the opportunity to reset 7 times. But I think these are the skills that you and I would share with our employers, right? And so that leads us to our next super fun announcement. Do you want to share?
Yeah.
All right, you go.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, so in a couple of weeks, we're going to do this whole series I think every month. We're going to do it every month, called Wellness Retreat at Work. And we're basically going to help you, teach you, support you, and create the safe space for you to, learn about burnout, to learn about stress, to learn all the things that we know, all the data, all the things, but also actively support yourself through it. So learn the little details, the actions that you can take, just small nuggets and big nuggets, right? Whatever you're ready for, that we can support you with. We're going to create different themes every single month that basically address, all the different issues that are happening right now in the world, in your bodies, in the work environment. And we're going to do it together. We're going to go through the data. We're going to go through action steps. We're going to have conversations, and we're going to have so much fun.
We are going to have so much fun. And follow us on LinkedIn. Make sure you get connected, because we'll be actively posting more info to come, how you register, all of the things. If we have any listeners that want a customized wellness retreat at work just for their workforce, do ping Teany and or I. so we can make that magic happen for you with your own group in private. We're really thrilled to do this. I know there's need based on my background more than ever. And I know that Teany also feels it and knows it, where you can go to work, make your space feel good. You feel safe. It's fun. You want to be in your workspace. You want to work. You're connected with your purpose. Your life makes sense. We spend so many hours of our life at work. And so we want to be the catalyst to making work fun again and having lots of wellness at work. And that's what we're up to. So we are hoping all our listeners will join us again. If you want a customized solution, reach out and we can connect and bring it to your company, special for you.
Yeah, and if you want to join us at the wellness retreat, it's tinyurl.com/wellnessretreat@work. And that'll be in 2 weeks. And yeah. So if you have any questions, we're open and willing to take them. When you see this video later on, definitely comment below and we'll definitely engage with you and answer anything you have to say. And also share your stories. We'd love to hear your burnout stories, your stress stories, and how you got through it. If you need support, we're here for it all, basically. Okay. Hey, today, how are you?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Good.
I loved
Having
it.
fun.
Yes, definitely. I loved it. I will definitely join the wellness retreat at work. You said in a couple of weeks, and I'm also going to share it on my LinkedIn as well so others can join. I think this is great. It was great content.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Really
No problem.
appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm super happy
Okay.
I joined.
Yeah. We're going to have more of these. So we're going to be doing a whole bunch more lives, and we have so much to say about all of this, about everything that's going on. So we'll be on more frequently. All right. So I think we should wrap up. Again, if you have any questions, just feel free to post, comment below, and we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks. And stay tuned for some more articles and more lives and all the juicy bits that we're going to put out there.
This is the number she can call you back at.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.